You've been told walking doesn't really do anything, that it's the consolation prize of exercise, the thing you do when you're too lazy or too tired for a real workout. I'm going to show you why that's backwards. Walking is one of the only forms of exercise where your body is forced to burn fat as its primary fuel. Not sugar, not muscle, fat. Not because it's gentle, because of a very specific metabolic switch that only flips when you move at this exact intensity. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's happening inside your body, minute by minute when you walk, why most people accidentally shut this switch off, and the 3 adjustments that turn walking from fine, I guess, into your most efficient fat loss tool. Stick around, because step 4 is the one almost nobody does, and it changes everything. Camp 1. They think walking is basically a waste of time. They see people doing an hour-long fat walk and think, that's cute, but real fat loss needs sprints, weights, high heat, something that leaves you gasping. So they skip walking entirely, jump straight into brutal workouts 3 times a week, burn out in 6 weeks, and quit. Camp 2, they walk religiously, 10,000 steps every single day, and get frustrated when the scale barely moves. They did the right thing and the results didn't show up. So they conclude walking doesn't work for them specifically, and they give up on the one exercise that was actually sustainable. Both camps are missing the same piece of information. Walking doesn't fail because it's a weak exercise. It fails because most people are doing it at the wrong intensity, for the wrong duration, at the wrong time relative to their eating, and they have zero idea their body has a fat-burning gear that they're simply not shifting into. This isn't about hustling harder. It's not just walk more. It's about understanding a switch inside your metabolism called substrate utilization, a fancy term for what is your body choosing to burn for fuel right now, sugar or fat, and learning to control it on purpose instead of by accident. Most fitness content skips this because it's not flashy. Nobody wants to explain mitochondrial fat oxidation in a 30-second reel. But this is the actual mechanism, and once you see it, you'll never look at a boring walk the same way again. Your body basically runs on 2 fuel tanks at any given moment: carbohydrate, stored as glycogen, and fat, stored as, well, fat. Think of it like a hybrid car. At low speeds, a hybrid quietly runs on the electric motor. Punch the gas, and the gasoline engine kicks in because electric alone can't deliver that power fast enough. Your body does the exact same thing, except the electric motor is fat and the gas engine is carbohydrate. At rest and during low to moderate movement, like walking, your muscles can pull energy from fat stores efficiently. It's slower to convert, but there's an almost unlimited supply, even on a lean person. That's why fat is the default fuel for gentle, sustained movement. The moment intensity spikes, sprinting, heavy lifting, a hill so steep you're breathing hard, your body needs energy fast. Fat oxidation is too slow for that demand, so your body switches to burning glycogen, the sugar stored in your muscles and liver. Here's the part that surprises people. Going harder does not mean burning more fat. It means burning less fat, relatively, and more sugar. Total calories burned might go up, sure, but the actual fuel source shifts away from fat the harder you push. This is why a 45-minute walk and a 12-minute sprint session can leave your body in completely different metabolic states, even if the sprint felt more productive. So if fat burning happens at lower intensities, does that mean slower is always better? No. There's a sweet spot, and exercise physiologists call it Zone 2. Zone 2 is the highest intensity you can sustain while your body is still comfortably pulling most of its fuel from fat. Push past it, and you cross what's called the crossover point, the moment your body flips the switch toward burning mostly sugar. You don't need a lab to find your Zone 2. Here are 3 practical ways. The talk test. You should be able to hold a full conversation, but singing would be a stretch. If you're gasping between sentences, you've blown past Zone 2 into sugar-burning territory. Heart rate. Roughly 60 to 70% of your estimated max heart rate. A quick estimate for max heart rate is 220 minus your age. So if you're 40, that's about 180 max, meaning your Zone 2 range sits somewhere around 108 to 126 beats per minute. Perceived effort. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is an all-out sprint, Zone 2 sits around a 3 to 4, noticeably working, not remotely struggling. This is exactly why a brisk, purposeful walk, arms swinging, slight incline, real pace, is so effective. It's usually landing you right inside Zone 2 without you needing a heart rate monitor to find it. Meanwhile, if you're strolling so slowly you're checking your phone every 10 steps, you may actually be undershooting the zone and getting less fat-burning benefit than you'd expect. In the first 10 to 15 minutes, your body is still leaning heavily on readily available glycogen, because that's the fastest fuel to access when you first start moving. As you continue walking, your body gradually recognizes the demand is steady and moderate, not a quick burst, and it starts shifting the fuel mix further toward fat oxidation. Somewhere around the 20 to 30 minute mark, for most people, fat becomes the dominant fuel source, often supplying 60% or more of the energy being used, depending on fitness level and how recently you've eaten. This is exactly why a 12-minute walk and a 40-minute walk aren't just different amounts of the same thing. They're using genuinely different fuel ratios. The 12-minute walk is still mostly running on glycogen. The 40-minute walk has fully shifted into fat-burning gear and stayed there. That doesn't mean short walks are useless. Every bit of movement adds up, and we'll get to that in a minute. But if fat oxidation specifically is your goal, duration is doing real metabolic work that intensity alone can't replace. This is the one people argue about constantly. Should you walk fasted, first thing in the morning, before eating? Here's the honest answer. Walking in a fasted state does slightly shift your fuel mix further toward fat because your glycogen stores are relatively lower after a night without eating, so your body leans on fat a bit more readily. But, and this is the part that gets buried, the difference is modest. We're talking a small percentage shift in fuel source, not a doubling of fat loss. If fasted walking makes you feel lightheaded, weak, or like you have to cut your walk short, you've just lost far more benefit from the shortened duration than you gained from the fasted state. First, are you walking consistently, most days, for a real duration? Second, are you in Zone 2, not too slow, not too fast? Third, are you walking long enough to shift into fat-dominant fuel, generally 20 plus minutes? And only after all three of those, a distant fourth, is whether you happen to be fasted. If someone tells you fasted walking is the secret, they've got the hierarchy backwards. Do the first three consistently, and the fasted question becomes a minor optimization, not a requirement. Everything so far has been about what happens during a single walk. But there's a longer-term effect that compounds, and this is the part that actually changes your body composition over months, not minutes. Regular Zone 2 walking increases the number and efficiency of your mitochondria, the structures inside your muscle cells that actually convert fat into usable energy. Think of mitochondria as tiny furnaces. The more efficient furnaces you have, and the more of them, the better your body gets at burning fat, even when you're not exercising at all. This is why people who walk consistently for months often notice something interesting. Their resting energy seems to improve. Their body starts pulling from fat stores more easily throughout the day, not just during the walk itself. That's not a coincidence. That's literally your cellular machinery upgrading. This is also why walking pairs so well with strength training rather than competing with it. Strength training builds and preserves the muscle tissue itself. Zone 2 walking upgrades how efficiently that existing muscle burns fat for fuel. One builds the engine, the other tunes it. You genuinely want both, and neither replaces the other. Quick gut check before we wrap this up. If you've been thinking walking never worked for me, ask yourself honestly, was it actually Zone 2 pace for 20 plus minutes most days of the week? Or was it a stop and start stroll for 10 minutes when you remembered? Because those are not the same exercise, even though they look identical on the surface. That mismatch, not walking itself, is usually the real reason it didn't work. Frequency, 5 to 6 days a week. This is low impact enough to recover from daily, which is exactly why it beats high-intensity workouts for consistency. Duration, 30 to 45 minutes. Long enough to shift firmly into fat-dominant fuel and stay there. Intensity, Zone 2. Brisk enough that conversation is doable, but singing isn't. Add an incline if you want to raise the intensity without breaking into a jog. Timing, whenever you'll actually do it. Fasted is a small bonus, not a requirement. A walk you'll actually take beats a perfect walk you keep skipping. Stacking, pair it with 2 to 3 strength sessions a week if fat loss and body composition are the goal. The walking burns fat, the strength training protects and builds the muscle underneath it. That's it. No 10,000 step obsession required, no fasted cardio suffering, no gadgets. Just pace, duration, and consistency in that order of importance. If this shifted how you think about walking, you know exactly what to do. Hit subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the strength training side of this equation, the exact rep ranges and frequency that protect muscle while you're in a calorie deficit. Drop a comment with your current walking routine. I'll read through them and reply with feedback on what's actually working and what's quietly sabotaging your results. And if you know someone who's convinced walking doesn't count as real exercise, send them this video. Let's fix that myth for good. I'll see you in the next one.